My Lords, I join the Noble Lord Billamori in welcoming Lord Heseltine. I, in fact, feel quite honoured to be participating in a debate where the Noble Lord Heseltine has made his maiden speech, and I'm sure I will be joined by other Noble Lords in saying that we look forward to hearing him speak a little bit more in the future. The maiden speech was interesting in the sense that there was no need for the normal preamble of telling us who you are. It is common knowledge that governments across the world tend to spend far more money than they collect by way of taxes and hence create great piles of debt. And every so often there's a wake-up call where certain initiatives are put in place to try to reduce that debt. We are no different in this country. And I understand, albeit no consolation, that from 2014 we will receive itemised tax bills which, amongst other things, will show how much each of us is paying by way of debt interest. Indeed, one may ask the question whether the current spending budgets of the government are forecast to exceed income again. One thing is for sure, that the debt is going to rise as we seem to be borrowing far more than forecast since the last spending review. The fact is that the economy of the country is supported by business. If one were to run a company in that manner, continually spending more than one's income, we all know that that company would go bankrupt. If one of my companies did this and I started printing money, as mentioned by the Noble Lord Higgins over there, to ease my situation, no doubt I'd be put in prison for counterfeiting. We won't get this deficit down unless we have a plan for jobs and growth and to get the economy moving. And to do that, we need to encourage businesses, small and medium, to invest, be daring and to kick-start the economy, employ lots of other people. It amazes me that the government's business secretary announces a lot of hollow initiatives under the guise of helping small businesses, and yet he is someone who has never been in business, never been on the coalface, never run a business, never understood the needs of a small business. I'm sure that if the Noble Lord Sassoon had a pain in his groin, that he wouldn't want me to remove his appendix, since I'm not a surgeon. A stupid analogy, but I'm sure I'm making my point. Yesterday's budget contained the usual lip service of how government is going to help small business. They've continually made these statements, but so far we see no evidence of it. It's the same as my noble friend Lord Eatwell mentioned, like the promise made to put fuel into the tank of the British economy. Instead, the economy has stalled, unemployment has risen, as has the aforementioned debt. And on the subject of lip service, I'm concerned, my lords, about politicians deflecting the real issue and placing blame elsewhere. For example, jumping on the bandwagon of bank bashing, singing the same old song about the lack of money being lent to small to medium-sized enterprises or bonuses being paid to banks' executives. All of this does nothing other than depress the business environment. It is not encouraging in any way, shape or form. It is sheer political capital, and I would urge all politicians to change the record and start to instil some confidence in the marketplace instead of depressing it. Now, you've never heard outrage expressed, for example, at the bonuses payable to, say, Sir Terry Leahy, Sir Stuart Rose, Sir John Rose, in their capacities as chief executives of Tesco's, Marks and Spencer's and Rolls-Royce. Well, I say quite rightly so, because that's business, where you employ experienced top executives and set them targets to get things done. In other words, incentivising people. Yet when banks, some of whom have large public shareholdings, employ top executives whose sole purpose is to take over and clean up the mess and improve the financial position and in turn the public's investment, those executives are chastised for accepting bonuses. Well, the reality is, my lords, carry on doing that and these people will simply go and get a job in a different type of company where the culture of paying bonuses is not frowned upon. Replace them, pay peanuts, and you will get monkeys. There is no question of it. And you will delay recovering the billions invested from the public purse. Then there is the alleged issue of banks not lending to small to medium-sized enterprises. Well, my lords, I've had first-hand experience of this from when I was a government adviser just under a couple of years ago. I investigated this particular issue in depth and discovered what I still believe to be somewhat the position today, and that is that there are many companies out there that are depressed by the doom and gloom messages over the current economic situation. They are not investing, they don't wish to invest, and in fact are tightening their belts. They don't want any money and are not asking for any money because they're nervous due to the lack of confidence in the marketplace, much of which is created by politicians jockeying for position or applause and BBC question time, and a very mischievous media. And then there are some companies that do want to borrow money, and however, I regret to inform my lords that in the case of some of these businesses, none of your lordships would lend a brass farthing, because they are simply not worthy and are a bad risk. Yet it is those people who shout the loudest and make a lot of noise which again attracts the newspaper headlines and are regretfully being used by certain politicians to popularise themselves. Now, the noble Lord Billamore mentioned the £20 billion credit easing scheme. And I'm sorry to be so sceptical, but this thing is designed to underwrite cash lent by banks to SMEs. I do hope it is not an open invitation to the banks to act in an irresponsible manner, dishing out loans that they would have not normally done. They would have normally rejected them as being high risk, bearing in mind they've now got the government to underwrite it. My lords, I've always stated that the last thing any business person wants is government interference. All that businesses require is an environment where enterprise can prosper, and that of course means allowing people to trade freely on a level playing field. Work in an environment where taxation is reasonable and where there are no onerous regulations or obstacles. That, my lords, is the sole job of the government to provide. And they also need to create a more positive feeling in the marketplace to encourage small to medium-sized enterprises and indeed give people the confidence to start up their own businesses, become self-sufficient and then in turn go out and employ other people. The budget, which noble lords have commented on, and I will keep my comments very restricted, should have had some meaningful offerings to encourage investment and instil confidence. Things that are tangible, that you can touch, such as a reduction in VAT, a 1 year's national insurance holiday for small businesses taking on extra workers, reduction in business rates, reduction in duty on diesel. These are just a few things that would have immediate impact and genuine help for small businesses. Instead, regretfully, with hollow promises that we continue to hear.